Hey, have you heard about this new game sweeping the nation? It's called Call or Don't Call. It's gotten attention from Pulitzer Prize winners, elected officials. This morning, a guy named Toure, who used to spend a lot more time on MSNBC, he did a big story about it saying, listen, white people, don't call the cops if you see a black person breaking the law, because everybody knows when cops respond to black people breaking the law, all they do is come along and kill people for no reason whatsoever. You know that, right? And so now there's only one solution to the problem of black criminality. We must not call the police. And so I thought we'd make a little game out of it. I'm going to run here some clips here, and we're going to ask each other, call or don't call. Why don't we start down in Mississippi?
Well, there wasn't enough peaches in the cobbler. Witnesses say they watched as Stanley Woodson got into it with workers about the dessert. The victim says he tried to step in, but ended up with a bullet in his back. Logan Ovescone says he made his usual stop into JoJo's Travel Center to pick up a Coke on Wednesday.
And he started cussing her out, so I set my Coke on the counter. I looked over at him and I was like, sir, I was like, dude, you ain't gonna talk to him like that.
He says the customer in front of him in the checkout line, later identified as Stanley Woodson, was mad about the amount of peaches served with his cobbler and was going off on the woman serving him.
Everybody that comes to this store, knows these women. You know what I mean? That's disrespectful, man.
Ovescone says he stepped in to defend the cashier, but he thought things would stop there.
I was like, man, all he's gonna do is argue. He ain't gonna do nothing,
Whether Woodson was just having a bad day or truly that frazzled over fruit, that part isn't clear, but Ovescone says he wasn't expecting to take a ride to the hospital.
Over some peaches. Peaches. You want to shoot at me over some peaches, bro?
He says Woodson popped his trunk on pump 5, pulled a gun out the back, and started shooting.
He reached over the car and shot again, and only thing I could think of was that dumpster.
According to Ovescone, 7 shots were fired as he ran to take cover.
I thought really, I was dead. I was done.
He thinks all the gunplay wasn't necessary.
Put up the guns, dude. Take it back. Let's go with his hands. You want to go?
But as if it happened again, he'd still stand up for the women working at the store.
I would do it again, 100%. Yes, ma'am.
Down in Portsmouth, Virginia, pretty close to Virginia Beach, a fella and his lovely ladies were involved in a home invasion. The cop rolled up on him and shot one of them dead. He has his body cam working, but the tape hasn't been released yet. His mom said he was a good boy who never did anything, never carried a gun, and she wanted to know why cops are always killing black people for no reason whatsoever. So here's the question. If you were on the scene and you witnessed this guy and his lovely lady involved in a home invasion, well, would you call or don't call?
We're on top of developing news out of Portsmouth. That's where Portsmouth police say one of their officers shot and killed a home invasion suspect.
It happened around 11:15 last night on Navajo Trail off Portsmouth Boulevard. State police are now investigating.
10 on your sides. Jason Marks took over our coverage after Wavy News 10 today. So, Jason, what have you learned since earlier this morning?
Well, guys, we just got done talking with the person who was shot, his family. I just want to show you exactly where we are and kind of set the scene for you here. This is the Bell Hall Apartments. Now, you're looking down Navajo Trail. If you look at down the very building last there, 140 at the very end, that's where police say that home invasion happened. Now, right behind that building is where the shooting happened, and then the victim, or the suspect, we should say, 28-year-old Willie Maribel, according to his family, ended up running this way and collapsing over here on Maribel Trail. Now, let's show you a picture of Maribel. Police tell us that it was last night when he stormed into that apartment here at Bell Hall Apartments on Navajo Trail. Police arrived and confronted Maribel, and when he didn't comply, according to officers, an officer fired. Maribel died at the hospital. Families tell us that he was jumped earlier in the day by 2 men living at this apartment complex. He and his girlfriend then went to the apartment, according to them, to confront the people who jumped him. We spoke with Maribel's mom, who has a lot of questions.
I want to know, why did the police kill my son? Why are they killing our black youth out here? And they talking about a gun. My son never owned a gun, never had a gun. So I want to know what's going on.
Here's a story out of Boyd Anderson High School, which is 91% black, which means 100% black. The teacher was assaulted by a student. Student comes in, A student comes in, picks up a desk, throws it at the teacher, gives him what could be significant and permanent debilitating injuries. So here's the question. Call or don't call?
The desk, raced it over his head, completely over his head, and then threw it at me. Damaged the ceiling, the false ceiling above me.
Tonight, only on 6, a teacher terrorized in his own classroom. One of his students attacking him with a desk. Thank you for joining us once again. I'm Juwan Strait.
And I'm Trina Robinson. Jackie is off. That South Florida teacher saying no one should ever feel unsafe in a classroom. A concern at many Broward schools right now.
NBC 6's Jamie Gorola spoke with the teacher, and he joins us live with his story tonight. Jamie.
Yeah, well, this is the latest complaint in Broward schools about safety. And now a teacher here at Boyd Anderson High School says he was attacked in the classroom and can't return.
He took the desk, raced it over his head, completely over his head, and then threw it at me. Damaged the ceiling, the false ceiling above me, struck me in the leg, in the thigh, caused me to fall down and injure my other leg as well.
These are the bruises and injuries after Stephen Lipscomb says he was attacked by a student last month while teaching in his classroom at Boyd Anderson High School.
He threw another desk before I was able to go and just restrain him until security came.
I spoke exclusively with the 50-year-old teacher. He says he lives a normally active life. Now he can't stand for more than 10 to 15 minutes without severe pain. And he's upset with school administrators and the district for treating his injuries like a paper cut.
They're trying to dismiss this as just a normal act.
Since Parkland, Broward Schools has been under fire countywide by students, parents, and teachers.
Why do we have BSO everywhere if they aren't doing their job and seem to be hanging out around our campus?
Just last month, the superintendent held a school safety forum and got an earful from parents who say schools aren't safe. Lipscomb says same for Boyd Anderson.
I do not feel safe in the school. I don't feel safe for several reasons. I know that students can walk in the school and we do not know if they're part of the campus. None of their backpacks are searched.
You know, that question's already been answered during the last years of the Obama administration. During the 8 years of the Obama administration, it was the official policy of the federal government and the local and state governments of the United States of America that there was an enormous disparity between black children and white children in discipline and expulsions. And there was only one reason for that, and that was racism. And so there was no reason to call the cops in that kind of scenario because the people committing the violence in that case, they would have been victims of racism. You don't call cops on victims, you call cops on perps. That's how they've been rolling in schools for a long time. It's starting to change back the other way, like this. And so now the big question they're facing down in South Florida is when a black person throws a desk at a teacher, white teacher, should they call or don't call? Let's head over to Chicago. Last weekend in Chicago, 300 to 400 black people were rampaging through the Magnificent Mile, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods of Chicago. They were attacking police, attacking residents. They were creating all sorts of violence, mayhem, and destruction. It didn't make the local daily paper for 3 days. And even after that, when the cops came out and started talking about what happened, they said, oh, nobody got hurt. That turned out not to be true. Somebody's in the hospital with a fractured skull. And now the parents are wanting to know, why didn't anybody report this injury? Why did it take so long for you to acknowledge that there was something really, really nasty down there on the streets of Chicago? Here's a video of 4 of the people involved in the beatdown of the 20-something-year-old who was in the hospital with maybe perhaps permanent brain damages. And so now the question you have to ask yourself when if you were there, if you saw a large group of black people rampaging through downtown Chicago, creating violence, mayhem, and destruction, should you call or don't call? Because more and more often, calling the cops on black people who break the law big and small. Boy, that really makes the black kids angry.